what's been alive in me in this ministry is, in Quakerism, is about the revitalization of Quakers, is that we have good news. And the good news is that Quakerism is a way of life, and it's transformational, and it's radical. And that it requires a sensitivity to this presence, developing a sensitivity to the presence. And so the question around the emotionality of Friends of Color and our cultures, that's part of Quakerism, old Quakerism. You know, that there's a deeper connection with that, and that we so what are the practices that we have for sensitizing ourselves to the presence? And we need to spend time really unpacking that, really starting to understand what that is. And another part of it, so I see Quakerism as a liberatory faith. It's a liberatory faith. And our faith is embedded in practices, not in beliefs. You know, a belief we have is that there's an alive presence, you know, and when we're connected with that presence together, it'll reveal itself to us. I mean, that's kind of our Quaker process. And it brings us to unity, not consensus, it brings us to unity. And you feel love when you come to that unity. And all of this stuff is experimental or experiential. You can do it and you become convinced or convicted because you have these experiences. You go, this is real. So I see that the revitalization of Friends has to do with how do we get in touch with that and sensitize ourselves to the presence? How do we discern truth? And when do you know when to speak when spoken through? You know, how do you discern truth? And in discerning truth, we have to give up a false part of ourselves. Part of this Quaker transformative process is that a year from now or 2 years from now, you're not going to be the same person. Because the way the Spirit works is that it reveals to you what you need to change in terms of your habits and your behaviors. And the thing that we found in Quakerism is that if you don't make those changes, you're going to get less of the truth coming through you. It's like dreams. If you write down your dreams, you start to remember your dreams. If you start to ignore them, you don't remember them. Or at least that's what happens to me. Quakerism is the same thing. You can read about it in history, in the journals. You know, that there's this conviction to, when truth comes to you, you need to follow it because it's something being revealed to you and it's serious. You know, and so there's this discernment of truth is a part of our good news and the revitalization of Friends. And the third part of this liberatory faith is discerning leadings, is that the Spirit will lead you. And I remember being at YFNA in '78, and Monette Thatcher was one of the elders with us, and she was giving us a talk, and she put it in a metaphor of a ball. Like, there's this ball, and this ball will guide you. And I forget how she talked about it, but she said, you're going to get your ball. And I remember I was my early 20s. I was probably 20. I was 20 years old or 19, and I like, there's something deep in me. I need to understand where I'm being led, you know, and it'll come to you, you know. And so this discerning your leadings is a really critical piece, because the way the Spirit works in my life is that it surrounds me. You know, way opens. Strategic planning isn't what it's about. It's about following that leading that then puts you in a place where other things start to happen, because as I said earlier, we're the hands, we're the feet, we're the back, we're the legs of the Spirit. And we need to learn to become sensitized to the Spirit, so you can discern it, feel it, understand truth when it's speaking through you. And then what are the leadings? And the leadings aren't these big things. Leadings are these small things. They start out very small. And as you listen and you obey, because it's about submitting, it's about submission. You know, and so my sense is that if we can come back to our practices and share them with each other, that our testimonies are no longer spices. Our testimonies are sharing the reality of the truth that we're learning about our lives and our spiritual lives. That each week we get together and we ask each other, how's truth prospering in your life? What are you learning from the Spirit? That becomes our dialogue. We move away from being a social meeting, where we actually become a spiritual meeting.